Greetings, my friends. As you can see, we finally have a bangle making kit. You know, I'm crazy about making bracelets. I don't know how many do you suppose I've made over the years. Those of you who've been following me a long time know that bangles are one of my things. But, you know, I've been using soda pop cans and stuff. I had seen these kind of metal forms before, but I thought they were too big. And then I realized, well, of course they're not too big because you're going to want to put an inner layer and an outer layer if you want to make them bigger. You know, they can be any size. And once that became clear to me, I started putting the kit together. So I'm laying mine out on the inside rim, but you could use the outside if you want it larger. And I'm going to use these templates that I designed. They're 10 inches long. And they come in different widths, and you kind of see the point of the widths as we go along. That first one is 1 1/4 wide, and that's so that it can wrap around a 1-inch bracelet and go over the edges, and it looks really pretty and looks really finished. So that's why it's 1 1/4. Then you have a 1 inch, you have a 3/4 inch, and you have a 1/2 inch. Now, of course, those could be used to make bracelets those widths, and I've done that, and it's really fun. But they're really not the point of this kit, and that's the reason I want this video to be clear. This 1 1/4 inch strip I'm going to set aside because it's going to be my veneer. So, you know, you guys have made veneers. I've seen what you've made. They're just beautiful. You can do makumegane, and you can do cane. There's some silk screen with paint, and a little bit of cane I made on another on Polyform site. Anyway, you can put whatever you want to on your 1 1/4 inch strip, or you can lay that template out on veneer that you've made and just cut a 1 1/4 inch wide by 10 inch strip. But however you do that, it's going to be the exterior. And this 1 inch is going to be the interior. Or if you want it larger, you know, you'd lay it around the outside. And you're going to see that when it's in your hands, you know, the flexibility of that. So I lay it out here. It's 10 inches long because if that were going to be the outer strip on a different kind of bracelet, it would need to be longer. So we're going to start with these long strips and cut them rather than have them be short. And that's why we don't use the EasyBangles templates, because heck, those are only 8 1/4 inches long. And that's the bare minimum interior diameter of a bracelet. So you do need that extra length. I'm using some Sculpey clear medium to seal that seam. I find it a lot easier to use than the bacon bond. You know, I like bacon bond, but you know, it can be a little goopy, huh? So for your fairy houses and stuff where you need a heavier bond, I like the bacon bond, but this is Sculpey clear, and I'm making sure that I rub it on the seam and on the edges of the seam. But, you know, don't get it on the metal part too much. I'm going to make my veneer now. This is a choice that you have. You could, as I said, use an existing veneer that's long enough, and by the time you get that last wrap around there, you may need 10 or 11 inches of it. But I'm going to use this 8-inch silk screen, and I'm going to make it fit, and I'll show you how I do that later. Because I want to show it to you, and because I have them in my store, and because a lot of you have been doing some beautiful work with silk screens, so I thought, well, we'll just demonstrate that today. So here it is, and I'm burnishing it down a little bit with my fingers. I'm not putting much pressure on there, but the warmth of my fingertips is making sure it's a good bond. And I'm only using that little bit of acrylic paint. Any kind's fine. It doesn't have to be fancy or expensive. Get the color that you like. The clay color there is antique gold, and you guys have seen it. I use it all the time. I like my jewelry and stuff to kind of look like I, you know, dug it up out of the ground or something. That kind of artifact vibe. But anyway, you're going to be using any color you want. The silk screens look beautiful on those glitter colored clays. And of course, maybe you're not even screening. Maybe you're using your cane, you know, strips, or your makumegane, or something with a texture. There's really no end to what you can use for your veneer. I'm going to drop that silk screen in some water. I'm going to do that right away. Get up and do it right away, or keep the water on your workspace. and that way it'll all rinse out clean. That's how easy they come out of the form when they're baked. So I'm drying it because I baked it for 40 minutes at 275, and then I dropped it in cold water to cool it faster so I wouldn't have to wait around to use it. You don't have to drop it in cold water, but I do that because I'm not very patient and I'm ready to go to the next step. So I'm drying it off, make sure there's no water on there before I do stuff. I've got my decorative sheet, decorative, yeah. I've got the sheet there that I made with the silk screen, and it's just laying there drying. I'm not going to put it on yet. It looks like I'm going to put it on when I look at this footage, but I'm not. I'm going to show you how we make the dome. And if any of this is too boring to watch, just watch this one part about the dome, because the whole point of this kit and all those different lengths or widths is to create an even dome. It doesn't have to be a high one. Since it's 1 inch wide, I'm laying that 3/4 inch strip on it with some Sculpey clear. You see how it doesn't quite fit? Well, you know, of course not, because if that was a thinner strip, it would be one length. If that was a thicker strip, see, it depends on what you're making. So I'm using a number 1 setting, and it comes out right about like that, and I'm going to trim it. But you know, we always want to err on the side of having the strip be too long, because what are you going to do with too short a strip? You're going to stretch it and then you can have a thin spot, okay? So I have my 3/4 inch strip on there, and I could stop there if I want kind of a flat bracelet, and I could just bend down those edges, but I want a domed bracelet. And that's why I'm showing you that today, because sometimes that could be tricky. And see that's a 10 inch strip, and that's the 1/2 inch size. And look how that fit. And that's why you need those long templates. I'm not just trying to get you to, you know, buy them. You need them because that last strip needed to be 10 inches long. And that's going to happen with your design. So you see I have my little thumb condoms on there? Aren't I clever? I got those for you because sometimes, you know, your hands can be hot, or maybe they have like super glue stuck on them like mine always do. But I want to have a nice smooth thumbs to settle down my clay. I'm pinching it to the edge, but not past the edge. And you'll see when we trim it that you're almost going to have no waste. If you have a lot sticking out, you know, you probably squeezed it a little bit too hard. So when you go into this part of it, all you're doing is blending those 3 strips down to the edge. And now you've got such a nice arch that's even. And I was not able to accomplish that just by laying, you know, even a nice uniform snake around a bangle. I couldn't get that graduated arch that I was looking for, and that's why I kind of thought up these strips that are extremely predictable in their result. So now I'm going to trim it, and you'll see what I mean. When you're settling it down and taking your time, in real time, that settling down process took me about 6 minutes. But yeah, I didn't show it all to you because that's just too boring. But see how little waste we have, and that's because those are made to fit what they're on in the way that they fit it. I'm going to measure this because if I had been using thinner sheets, I'm going to have a smaller diameter. I used number 1 sheets, and so I'm going to end up needing about 11 inches of decorative sheet, and that sheet was 8 inches. So I put it through the pasta machine, and it turned out just fine. Now your Sculpey liquid clear needs to go on the edges here, see? Because what we're going to do now is put on our strip, and we're going to fold it over that edge, and that's what makes it look so finished and nice. And it took me a long time to do that. I mean, I have drawers full of bracelets that, you know, kind of look like my granddaughter Jolene made them or something, because I didn't understand how the finishing really worked to make them look, you know, professional. But I think when you have that 1 1/4 inch veneer of whatever it may be, then you can bend it over the edge, and you won't get a lot of extra there, just a ring to cut off, because it'll go over the edge to the bottom. So you take your time on that and let the warmth of your hands help it to conform to the base that you've made. I do bake, once I put those strips on there, I do bake that for 30 minutes because it's really hard to work with if they're still raw. So that's something that, that I want to emphasize. So I baked the base, just the one that was on the inside. Then I baked it again for 30 minutes at 275 after the strips were on. And that way, see, now that I'm applying this, I don't have to be too careful handling it. That's just my Xacto knife. I was too lazy to get up and get a CaneBender. I'm just rolling over that seam and blending it, and in real life you can't see it at all. And I'm checking it out to make sure that it's, gone to the edge nicely. And now I'm going to trim, and see, you'll see it. We only just have this little ring of overhang. And we know that it meets up there really nicely without any gaps. See that rubber thing? That's a silicone ice tray. I've used that in other videos, and I've used it so much for this because you need kind of a soft place when you're settling down your veneer sheet. You don't want to like push through on one side and scrape it up. So I really recommend that. You can get things like that at Walmart, and they're not expensive. But any kind of soft rubbery surface works for that. So that's the size that it is, which I like for myself, but this isn't for myself, actually. So that's why we have the ability to resize these things and to make them outside and to make them inside. It's, kind of a little bracelet revolution, okay? So I've silk screened myself another piece of clay. That one's a thin one. I think that's probably about a number 3. And I've cut it down to about 8.5 inches because we know we don't need, 10 inches for the interior. But don't cut it too short either because, like I said, there's nothing like a gap, right? So make sure that you've got a nice length for your interior and put some Sculpey liquid clear in there, okay? And rub it on there like I showed you. And settle this down. Really check it carefully for air pockets. You've come this far, your bracelet's looking really good. So you want to take your time on your interior because it really gives a nice look to the finished piece. And there it is. I didn't trim that at all. So I put some I put some DeepShine on that. Inside and out. And I can show you that in another video. You can actually leave it without any cover, without any coating on it if you want to, because that baked on acrylic paint is super durable. But there's a cane one there. There's another silk screened one with oh, that one was really cool. I made that one on Sculpey. That's got a striped interior, and that's just 2 layers of 1/2 inch. There's a semi-domed one that doesn't have all 3 layers on it, so that was some really nice metallic paint I used for silk screening. And here's an oval one. And you see oval kits in my store. The oval one's a whole nother bag of tricks. It's really fun. It's the same exact process, but I like the flat surface to kind of make designs on. Here's a cane one. Here's a really neat metallic silk screen one with contrasting interior. It's done with a different screen. So have fun. Make some. Love you guys. Bye-bye.